AITA for leaving town after my parents secretly volunteered me as my brother's donor. I'm 28 now, but my whole life my family felt completely upside down. I was the older kid, but my younger brother Logan, he was the golden child, practically from birth, and I'm not exaggerating. My entire childhood felt like being an extra in the Logan show, where every single episode featured my parents just fawning over their miracle baby. Meanwhile, I was in the background, holding a boom mic no one had even asked me to hold. Let me paint you a picture. I was 8 years old. Logan was 5. I just won first place in a regional spelling bee. I was on top of the world. I couldn't wait to tell my parents. I ran home, shiny trophy in hand, only to open the door and find my mom on the phone with my grandmother absolutely gushing because Logan had learned to tie his shoes that day. I tried to show her my trophy, practically bursting with pride. She just gave me a dismissive wave and mouthed, "That's nice," before diving right back into her conversation about Logan's monumental feat of fine motor skills. And just like that, the tone for the next 20 years was set. Now, I get it. Logan was born with a kidney condition that needed constant monitoring as a kid. For any parent, that's terrifying. But somewhere along the line, that medical monitoring became this all-encompassing excuse to treat Logan like a delicate, priceless relic, while completely forgetting their other son me even existed. Every single family vacation was planned around what Logan could tolerate. Every holiday had to ensure Logan's comfort. Every dinner conversation inevitably circled back to Logan's latest appointment, Logan's special diet, Logan's need for extra rest. Meanwhile, I was getting excellent grades. I excelled in sports. Objectively, I was the kind of kid most parents would be bursting with pride over. My reward, a half-hearted good job, immediately followed by a return to the latest debate about Logan's blood work. The double standard in our house was so blatant, even a reality TV producer would have thought it was too on the nose. When I was 12, I asked to join the school band. My parents said, "Oh, it's too expensive because of Logan's medical bills, you know." 3 months later, Logan casually mentioned video games looked cool, and my dad came home with a brand new console and 5 games. The total cost, probably 3 times the price of a used clarinet. But of course, we had to be careful with the budget. At 13, I wanted to go to summer camp with my friend Ryan. 2 weeks in the mountains. Archery, canoeing. I'd been dreaming about it for months. Denied. Too expensive. Too far away. And what if something happened to Logan? We needed to be available for him. Ryan went without me. He came back with stories of campfires, zip lines, even his first kiss with a girl from another cabin. I spent that whole summer mowing lawns in the neighborhood, just trying to earn a few bucks while Logan played his new games in the cool air conditioning. At 14, I made the honor roll every single term. My school held a ceremony for the top students and parents were invited. Me and Nick, they didn't come. Scheduling conflict, they said, turned out to be a movie matinee with Logan. I walked across that stage with all the other kids, their parents clapping and taking pictures. For me, there was no one. At 15, I asked for driving lessons. My mom said they didn't have time with all of Logan's medical appointments. I learned to drive thanks to Ryan's dad, who actually felt sorry for me and took me out on weekends. My parents never noticed, never even thanked him. But when Logan came of age, suddenly they had all the time in the world. My dad coached him for weeks, patient and enthusiastic. My mom made a full photo album for his learner's permit than his license. They even threw him a small party. For my license, I got nothing, not even a card. At 16, I asked them to come to my championship basketball game. It was a huge deal, a game against our biggest rival, and I was the starting point guard. My dad said they try, but Logan had a checkup that afternoon and they didn't want to rush him. The appointment? A routine checkup. Not an emergency, not a procedure, just a 15-minute chat with the same doctor he'd been seeing for years. They didn't come. We won. I scored 18 points. I later found out that after the appointment, they took Logan for ice cream because he'd been so brave during the blood draw. Ice cream for a blood draw. Nothing for leading my team to a title. I came home to an empty house. Just leftover casserole in the fridge and a post-it note that said, heat for 3 minutes. By my senior year, I just learned to expect absolutely nothing from my parents. When Logan graduated, he got this huge party, caterers, a DJ, about 50 guests, family flying in from 3 different states, banners, balloons, a photo montage of his entire life. I got a card with $100 and a "we're proud of you" that felt as credible as a counterfeit bill. We had dinner at a chain restaurant, and my parents spent most of the meal talking about Logan's college plans. I paid my way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs. Meanwhile, my parents fully funded Logan's private university because he needed more support. I worked 25 hours a week at the campus IT lab on top of a full course load. I ate ramen noodles more nights than I care to admit. I tutored on the side to make ends meet. I even sold my plasma twice a month because the clinic near campus gave $50 per donation. Logan, he lived in a comfortable dorm, had a fully paid meal plan, and got a new laptop every year. I graduated top of my class in software engineering with honors. Logan finished with a 2.3 GPA in communications after 5 years, 2 major changes, and several failed classes. And guess who got the bigger celebration? Logan received an all-expenses paid week in Cancun. I got a text message. Congrats. Knew you could do it. No party, no trip, no dinner, just a text. But here's the important part. Despite all of this, I never held Logan personally responsible. He didn't choose to be born with a kidney condition. He didn't ask to be raised like a god while I was treated like furniture. That was on our parents. Logan and I weren't close, but we weren't enemies either. We just coexisted on parallel tracks. Him in the spotlight, me in the shadows. After college, I moved to Seattle to start my career as a software developer. And I was good, really good. All those years of being ignored had left me with a massive chip on my shoulder, and I channeled every ounce of that anger into my work. I stayed late, took on extra projects, learned new programming languages in my spare time. I made myself indispensable. Within 5 years, I was a senior developer at a major tech company. I bought my own condo with a view of the water. I had a reliable car, paid for in cash, savings, investments, a life I had built entirely without my family, and it felt incredible. I kept minimal contact with my parents, a call on some holidays if I felt like it, usually lasting 10 minutes before the conversation inevitably turned back to Logan. I'd visit one, say, years sometimes, and feel like a guest who had overstayed his welcome in his own childhood home. They never seemed to notice the distance or care. They never asked about my work, my life, or my friends. They never came to Seattle. They never saw my condo. They never met the person I was dating. Everything came to a head about 2 years ago. I got a call from my mother. Logan's kidney condition had worsened to the point where he needed a transplant. His one functioning kidney was failing. Dialysis was just a temporary fix. The doctors said a living donor offered the best chance and close relatives were the most likely candidates. Now, I want to be very clear about something. If my parents had called me to ask, truly ask, if I would be willing to get tested for compatibility, I probably would have said yes. Despite everything, I'm not a monster. Logan was still my brother. If there was a chance to help save his life, I would have at least considered it. But that's not what happened. My mother called me in a panic not to ask for my consent, but to inform me that I was already scheduled for testing at a transplant center near their home. She had given them my personal information, filled out preliminary forms on my behalf, and booked an appointment for the following week. She had used my old address, my social security number, which she still had from when she did my taxes as a teen, and signed documents stating she was acting in my best interest. She spoke as if it was all a done deal, as if my participation was a mea formality. I knew you would want to help your brother, she said, as if she were giving me a gift. Family takes care of family. It's your duty as a brother. I've set everything up so you don't have to worry about a thing. I was silent, stunned for a full 30 seconds. My duty? I had just been signed up for invasive medical tests and potentially major surgery without being asked a single question, not even a simple, would you be willing to think about it? When I finally found my voice, I asked her to explain exactly what she had done. She became defensive. Instantly, she said she was just speeding things up, that we couldn't waste time, that Logan couldn't wait for me to make up my mind. He needed a kidney now, and I was the best option. Did it ever occur to you to ask me? First, I asked. Her response? And why? Should I have to? You're his brother. Of course you're going to help. That's what family does. That sentence was all I needed. It said everything about how they truly saw me not as a person with his own life, his own autonomy, his own right to make decisions about his own body. No, I was a resource, a supply of spare parts to be activated whenever Logan needed something. I told her I needed time to think. She exploded. There's nothing to think about. You're being selfish. Logan could die if you refuse. She was crying, saying she couldn't lose her baby. She was screaming that I was ungrateful. She said I was breaking her heart just by hesitating. I hung up. Over the next few days, my phone blew up. My mother called, repeatedly, leaving increasingly hysterical voicemails. My father called with his reasonable tone of voice, which really meant just do what your mother wants. He tried to sell it as a misunderstanding. Your mother is just panicking. She was trying to help. You know how she gets when it comes to Logan. She signed me up for surgery. Without asking me, I countered. That's not panic. That's overstepping every boundary. Silence. Even Logan called. To his credit, he sounded uncomfortable. He said he hadn't asked for this, that he found out about the appointment at the same time I did. Our parents had just told him everything was arranged and that he had no idea they hadn't spoken to me first. I told him I'd think about it. After I hung up, I just sat there. I replayed my entire life scene by scene, and that night I made a decision that changed everything. The next morning, I called my manager and requested a transfer to our Austin office. The company was expanding there and looking for senior developers. There was an open position They were happy to relocate me. I gave my notice in Seattle and started making arrangements to leave. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my family. I quietly emptied my condo, sold what I couldn't take, hired movers, and prepared to disappear. Before I left, I did one last thing. I started the process of a legal name change. I filed the paperwork, paid the fees, and officially changed my identity. I won't share my new name for obvious reasons, but it felt like shedding a skin I had worn for 28 years. The day I left Seattle, I sent one last message to my parents. I am not going to the appointment. I will not get tested. I will not be donating anything. Do not contact me again. Then I blocked them everywhere, phone, email, social media, and I drove away. The first few weeks in Austin were surreal. I kept expecting someone to show up at my door. It never happened. They couldn't find me. My new apartment was under my new name. Utilities, phone, bank accounts. Everything was separate from my old identity. As far as my family was concerned, I had simply vanished. Later, through a cousin, I learned what happened when my parents realized I wasn't bluffing. My mother never accepted the idea that I had left voluntarily. She called the police several times, went to the station in person, and made such a scene that they threatened to have her removed. She tried to file a missing person report, but it was rejected because I didn't meet the criteria. Then she started calling hospitals and even the morgue, convinced I had to be dead because in her mind, there was no way I would have left the family of my own free will. When that didn't work, she started contacting people from my past, friends, old college classmates, distant acquaintances, sometimes people I hadn't spoken to in years. She would ask desperately if they knew where I was. No one gave her anything. Most of them didn't even know my parents because I had stopped talking about my family a long time ago. My parents even flew to Seattle and spent several days staking out my old office building, hoping to see me show up. No luck. So they started approaching random employees, holding up a photo, asking if they recognized me until security had to intervene. Human Resources eventually sent them a formal cease and desist letter threatening legal action if they set foot on the property again. My father tried a different tactic. He called the company's general line, pretending to be a potential client. The receptionist told him no one by that name worked there. He called back several more times with different stories until the calls were traced and his number was blocked as well. Meanwhile, I was building my life in Austin. The city suited me, the warmth, the space, the way people minded their own business. I found a place to live where no one asked questions and the maintenance guy just gave me a nod in the elevator. I made friends at work with people who knew me only as the person I had chosen to be. No one held me accountable for my family. No one expected me to fly home for the holidays. No one asked why I never mentioned my parents or my brother. After 6 months, I was promoted and put in charge of a small team for a new product launch. After the project's success, my boss pulled me aside. If I kept this up, a director position was in my future. I started managing my finance seriously. I built up an emergency fund that could cover 18 months of expenses. I bought furniture that I chose, not hand-me-downs. I painted my bedroom a color I liked. I joined a rock climbing gym just to try something new. That's where I met Lauren. She was belaying for a friend. When I showed up for my first class, we started talking. She was a nurse at a large downtown hospital. She had a laugh that made me want to invent jokes just to hear it again. Coffee after my class turned into dinner a few days later, and then naturally we started dating. After a few months, I told her everything. We were sitting on my couch, takeout, containers on the coffee table, a movie playing in the background that neither of us was watching. I told her about the favoritism, the neglect, the ignored spelling bee trophy, the championship game with no parents in the stands. I told her how my mother had signed me up for surgery without my consent, the name change, the move, the complete cutoff. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, your body is your body. No one gets to promise it away for you, not even family, and especially not a family that never treated you like you were part of it. In that moment, I knew I was going to marry her. About a year after I left, my cousin contacted me again. Logan's condition had gotten worse. He was on full-time dialysis 3 times a week. 4 hours a session. The wait list for a kidney from a deceased donor could be years long. My parents were still looking for me, obsessed with the idea that if they could just find me, they could fix the situation. 6 months ago, my cousin called again. Your parents hired a private investigator service. She said, a company that specializes in tracking down people who don't want to be found. They were that desperate? How much did they pay? I asked. I heard your mom mention a $5,000 retainer. $5,000 to find a son they had ignored for almost 30 years. $5,000 they never had for a single one of my birthdays. $5,000 they didn't have for summer camp, driving lessons, or my graduation party, but could find in an instant when they needed something from me. I thanked my cousin and went into maximum security mode. I locked down my social media, set my profiles to private, and replaced my photos with non-identifiable images. I deleted any location tags. I spent a whole weekend requesting my data be removed from pupil search websites, erasing any public trails linking my new identity to my address. I warned my landlord not to confirm my residency to anyone. I changed my commute, my habits, my regular spots. Despite that, over time, it became clear the service they hired was professional. I don't know how they did it or what channels they went through, but they eventually narrowed down my general location. And that's when the letter arrived. It was sent to my company's general mailing address with only my old first name and a rough physical description. The mailroom manager dropped it on my desk with a confused look. Is this for you? A lady sent it with no return address. Just wrote first name, brown hair, tall, works in tech. I opened it knowing exactly who had written it. 6 handwritten pages on cream-colored paper with little flowers in the corners, the kind of stationery you choose when you want to look sincere. She wrote about how much they missed me, how worried they were that Logan was getting worse every day, that every day without a transplant brought him closer to serious complications. She reminisced about when I was a baby, how she used to rock me while humming old songs, how quiet I was, how easy I had been to raise. Nothing, absolutely nothing about the years after Logan was born. Nothing about the childhood I actually lived. Just memories from before the arrival of the one who would command all their attention. She had enclosed 3 photos of Logan hooked up to his dialysis machine. In one, he was looking at the camera with an almost posed expression. On the back, in her loopy handwriting, it said, your brother needs you. Another showed him lying in a hospital bed. Another in a wheelchair. I wondered if he had been asked to look particularly frail, or if he had played along himself. What she didn't do was apologize. Not once in 6 pages did she acknowledge that what they had done was unacceptable. Not once did she take responsibility for signing me up for a medical procedure without my consent. The closest she came to regret was buried on page 4. I am sorry you felt hurt by our anxiety to help Logan. Classic manipulation. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you, but I'm sorry you felt that way. She was shifting the blame to my reaction, not her actions. I tore up the letter and threw it away. After that, things escalated. My mother got my office's general number from a business directory and started calling. At first, the receptionist was confused. No one used my old name here. She thought it was a client and transferred the call to my desk. Bad idea. My mother's voice exploded through the speaker, frantic and furious at the same time. I know you work there. I know you can hear me. Stop this nonsense and come home. Your brother is facing serious health issues. How can you be so selfish? I hung up without a word. She called back. Immediately, the receptionist answered. My mother started screaming, demanding to be put through, threatening to come down in person if they refused. That day, security was put on high alert in case someone showed up to cause an incident. Human resources called me in to understand what was going on. I explained briefly medical coercion, boundary violations, family estrangement. To my surprise, they were extremely understanding. Someone on the team had gone through a similar conflict with an estranged parent. They blocked my parents' numbers and added an alert to my file. No information was to be given to anyone claiming to be a member of my family. Then came the social media campaign. At first, it was subtle. A Facebook post on my mother's personal profile about the anguish of a mother whose son had disappeared without explanation. Story completely sanitized of the part about the unauthorized medical appointment. She portrayed herself as a heartbroken mother searching for her child. Her friends flooded the comments with support, prayers, and offers to share the post. She enthusiastically accepted. With that momentum, the campaign grew quickly. She posted in missing persons groups in community forums for different cities, including Seattle and other random ones, asking if anyone had seen me. She posted old photos of me, often with Logan, to reinforce the image of a united family. She wrote long posts where she cast herself as the victim. She had given everything to her 2 sons, and now one was facing serious health issues while the other refused to help. She was rewriting history in real time. She was turning me into the villain, the ungrateful son who abandoned a loving family for no reason. Many people believed her. The comments overflowed with sympathy for her, insults for me, and people eager to scour the internet for information about me. 2 weeks later, their hunt had turned up nothing. There was nothing to find, but not everyone bought their version. Some people who knew our family started setting the record straight. A woman from our high school wrote a comment detailing how I had always been treated like a footnote. She recalled the parentless basketball game and my solo graduation. She said my departure didn't surprise her at all, and that if my mother wanted answers, she should start by looking in a mirror. The comment was deleted within minutes, but screenshots were already circulating. My cousin also stepped in, confirming that my parents had tried to sign me up for surgery without my consent, and that this act had been the final straw after decades of favoritism. Those messages were deleted too, but the damage was done. People started to question my mother, pointing out that an adult does not just disappear from their family for no reason. She didn't slow down. She doubled down with more tearful posts, more childhood photos, more updates on Logan's health, always with the implication that I was making his situation worse by not stepping in. She even started a GoFundMe for his medical expenses, mentioning that her other son had abandoned the family in its darkest hour. 3 months ago, Logan came back into my life. One morning when I arrived at the office, security informed me that someone was being held in a room near the reception desk. There had been no incident, but he was asking to see me using my old name, a name the company knew I had once used. For protocol, they kept him there while waiting for me to confirm if I wanted to see him. From the description, I knew immediately it was Logan. I hesitated for a few seconds, then agreed. I found him sitting silently in that small room, waiting to see if I would even acknowledge him. He looked exhausted, pale, gray, and too thin, as if his body was consuming itself from the inside. His clothes hung off him. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes, the jaundiced complexion of failing kidneys. He clearly bore the marks of dialysis, the appointments, the waiting, the hope worn thin from watching his body slowly decline. A part of me felt a genuine pang of compassion. Despite everything, he was my brother. Another part immediately put up a wall, ready for more emotional blackmail, more guilt-tripping, another demand disguised as a request. Before I could speak, he raised his hands, a gesture that was visibly costly for him. I'm not here because mom and dad sent me. They don't. No, I contacted you. I'm not here to confront you or pass on their messages. That's not why I came. I stayed near the door, keys in hand, the exit just a few feet away. I could turn around, ask security to escort him out and leave without a word. Then why did you come? I finally asked because I needed to talk to you brother to brother, not through a letter, not over the phone, not through social media, face to face. I considered ignoring him, telling him to leave. 10 different options flashed through my mind in a few seconds, but something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. 5 minutes, I said. He took a deep breath. I know what they did was wrong. Signing you up without asking. I told them not to do it that way. They didn't listen. He paused. I'm facing a life-threatening situation. That's the reality. I've been on the waiting list for 2 years. I'm not here to blame you. I just wanted to look you in the eye and tell you that I'm sorry for everything, for the way they treated you our whole lives. I saw it. You deserved better. And I'm sorry I never said it before. He stood up slowly, wincing in pain. If you don't want to get tested, I get it. Your body, your choice. I just wanted to tell you all this in person. You're my brother. I wanted it to come from me. I wanted to have one honest conversation. Well, I can still stand on my own 2 feet. Then he walked toward the exit. Silently, I watched him go. Logan, I called out. He turned around. I'll think about it. He just nodded and left. I thought about it for weeks then. I made my decision. I went to a transplant center in Austin completely independent of my parents and did a full workup. I figured there was no point in torturing myself with the decision to donate if I wasn't even compatible. The results came back 2 weeks later. Tissue incompatibility. Even if I wanted to donate, I couldn't. I told Logan over video call. He took it better than I expected. Honestly, I'm relieved, he said. Not because I don't need a kidney, but because the pressure is gone. We can just be brothers. He was the one who told our parents he had found me We had talked. I had gotten tested on my own, but we weren't the match. According to him, my mother lost it. She screamed that I must have sabotaged the tests, that I was trying to make his situation worse on purpose. My father just sat there, silent. And then the worst part, once she calmed down, my mother asked Logan if I would at least be willing to give money for his medical bills since I wasn't giving a kidney. Logan said no on my behalf. My mother burst into tears, repeating that she didn't understand what she had done wrong. 2 weeks later, Logan called me with news. He was moving up the list. A compatible kidney from a deceased donor had just been allocated. The donor was a 24-year-old man who had died in a motorcycle accident 3 states away. It was tragic, but his family had chosen organ donation. Logan was a match. The surgery was scheduled for Tuesday morning. I sat with the information for a while, thinking, should I do something? Could I? This was what he had been waiting for years, a chance to live a normal life, to get off dialysis 3 times a week, to eat and drink without a prison of restrictions, to stop planning every day around the hospital. And then I realized it. I wanted to be there, not for my parents, not out of obligation, for Logan, because despite everything, despite my years in his shadow, he had done what no one else in my family ever had. He had seen me. He had apologized. He had treated me like a person. I booked a flight. I didn't tell my parents. Logan and I coordinated everything discreetly. I would arrive Monday night, stay at a hotel near the hospital, and he would arrange for our parents not to be there when I came to see him. It was ridiculous having to sneak around to visit my own brother, but that was our reality. My flight landed at 9 o'clock in the evening. I rented a car and went to the hotel. I checked in under my new name just in case. Logan texted me that he was already admitted for pre-op prep and that our parents had gone home for the night. I went to bed knowing the next day would be long. On Tuesday, I was at the hospital by 6 o'clock in the morning. Logan, rushing pre-op. They let me see him for a few minutes before they took him to the operating room. He was hooked up to an for line, wearing a hospital gown. Nervous, but strangely calm. Thanks for coming, he said. It means a lot to me. Don't give them any surprises on the table. I joked. He laughed. You came all the way across the country. I'll try not to give you a surprise. Funeral at 7 o'clock in the morning. They wheeled him to the operating room. I went to the waiting area with its smell of disinfectant, uncomfortable chairs, and the morning news on a muted television. For the first hour, I was alone. Then other families started to arrive, each one hanging on their own verdict. The surgery was expected to last 4 to 6 hours. I stayed the whole time, phone in hand. The hospital had an update system, patient in operating room, surgery in progress now. Complications, closing in progress. With each message, I felt my shoulders relax, as if an old tension was leaving my body, millimeter by millimeter. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the surgeon came out. A small woman with gray hair and tired eyes behind her glasses, still in her scrubs. She found me in the room and introduced herself. Everything had gone well. The kidney was in place. It was functioning, producing urine. Logan was in recovery, still under anesthesia, but stable. I thanked her at least 4 times. She smiled with the gentleness of someone who sees that kind of relief every day. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was moved to a regular room. I went in. He looked terrible, like anyone after major surgery. Pale, groggy, wires. Everywhere but alive. He opened his eyes when I got closer. Hey, so is the new kidney behaving itself? He tried to laugh, then winced. Don't make me laugh. Everything hurts. Shouldn't have. Let people cut you open. I pulled up a chair and sat. We didn't talk much. He fell back asleep quickly for almost an hour. I used the time to answer some emails and text Lauren that the surgery was a success. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he woke up more lucid this time. You stayed? He asked. Yeah. You could have left. No one would have judged you. I'm good here. He looked at me for a long time. Thank you. Really? I didn't stay too late. I wanted to be gone before my parents arrived. I didn't know what time they were coming, only that it was inevitable. I told him I had some work to catch up on, then left without running into them. I stayed in town for 3 days. I figured out their routine. Mom in the morning, dad in the afternoon, both of them together in the evening. I filled in the gaps. I would visit when I knew they weren't there. I would stay just long enough to talk to Logan, then leave. Before they arrived, in those 3 days, we talked more than we had in the last 10 years. Real conversations, not small talk. He confessed that he had always felt guilty about how they treated me, that he had tried to confront them once when he was 16, and they had immediately shut him down. You're imagining things. We love you both the same. Stop trying to cause trouble. I believed them. He told me I wanted to believe them. It was easier than accepting that they could be like that. We were kids, I replied. Yeah, but I could have spoken up later. As an adult, I didn't. But you're doing it now. On my last day, I was leaving the hospital around 8 o'clock in the evening, heading for the parking garage, and there she was, my mother. She froze, then her face contorted. She rushed toward me, arms open. Oh, my baby, you came back. I held up a hand. Don't come any closer. I came for Logan, not for you. Logan apologized. You haven't. I paused. You signed me up for surgery without my consent. You spent 28 years treating me like I was invisible, and you still haven't apologized. She started crying. I don't understand what I did wrong. I was just trying to save your brother. This conversation is over. I walked around her and went to my car. She was screaming behind me to wait. I didn't look back. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm back in Austin. Lauren picked me up from the airport. We got tacos on the way home. Life is normal. Life is good. Logan is recovering well. We text often. He sent me a picture of himself walking down the hospital hallway for Poland, hand with the caption, me and my new kidney are still getting to know each other. I replied with a thumbs up emoji. My parents have tried to get back in touch. My mother sent another letter to the office, shorter this time, 1 page. Still no real apology. My father tried to get my number from Logan, hoping to call me. Logan refused. He didn't play their game. After everything that has happened, I realized one thing. My relationship with Logan is not perfect, but it is real. It's growing slowly, without demands or emotional debt. Just two brothers trying to do better than before. And I've learned something essential. The people who truly want to be in your life prove it with their actions. They take responsibility. They apologize. They respect your boundaries, or they let you move on in peace. Life goes on, and I am the one who decides who I walk through it with. This story really stayed with me, and it made me think a lot about how crucial it is to protect our own Boundaries, standing up for yourself, isn't selfish at all. It's actually a deep form of self-respect. Real kindness always includes being kind to yourself. First, healing starts the moment we stop letting others diminish our worth. Taking responsibility for your own peace is one of the bravest choices you can make.